Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, Assalamu alaikum and welcome back in lecture number 8. This is about the equilibrium in factors of production. Actually, this is the continuation of our previous lecture, and we will remind a greater proportion of our previous lecture, and then we'll come towards the main topic of this lecture, that is equilibrium in factors of production. So we will have a look in our previous lecture because the equilibrium of factors of production requires that your previous concepts should be very much fresh in your mind. So we have got a lot of slides from our previous lecture, and before we go into detail, let me tell you the learning outcomes. That after this lecture you should be able to understand the concept of equilibrium in factors of production and how the balance between hired factors of production and the entrepreneurial factors of production is achieved into the economy. A balance has to strike between the hired factors of production and entrepreneurial factors of production. And there is the phenomena of demand and supply for both. If the ujrat or the rent is higher in the market, then the greater proportion of the factors of production will be available for as hired factor of production. But when the ujrat or the rent or the margin utility as being a hired factor of production is lesser, then most of the factors will opt to become an entrepreneurial factors of production. So let's have a look into the previous slides as well, so that we can refresh the mind about the concepts, and then we come towards the main topic of this lecture. So we covered the following topics in our previous lecture. It was about the factors of production under conventional economic system, and we will refresh that concept again. And also we discussed the concept of factors of production under Islamic economic system, and also we discussed the concept of factors of production under Islamic economic system, and we had a division about the factors of production into factor inputs and consumed inputs. And then further we classified the factor inputs into hired factors of production and entrepreneurial factors of production. And we will remind that all again, that under the conventional setup, the factors of production, they are classified into 4 factors of production, that is land, labor, capital, and the entrepreneur. So we saw some confusion as well, like in the case of capital, they take, and the conventional setup take money as a capital as well, and at the same time they take other capital assets like plant, machinery and equipment, they take them as capital as well. So the treatment of the same category of capital is different. In case of money, interest is the reward, whereas in case of other capitals like physical capitals, the plant, equipment and other things, the reward is rent. So there is a confusion in the conventional economic concept about the capital, and the entrepreneur is the person who is managing all other resources. So let's look what is the factor, who is the owner of the factor, and what is reward for the factor, and what is the nature of the factor of these factors of production. First of all, land. As we know, anything on the land, under the land, is in the category of land unless it is processed or some other efforts or labor is applied on that to make it some other good, and then it converts to the capital. So the owner of the land is the landlord, and the reward for land is rent. So if anything which is consumed, it has a price of it, but if it is just used and the beneficial use without consuming it, or the services are being used, then the reward is rent. And all the natural resources, they have the reward as rent. And the labor, the owner of the capital is clear, it is the laborer, and the reward for the efforts of the labor is the wage or the salary. And then in the category of labor, anybody who is performing any kind of job, it might be in the office or it might be in the field, so all are labor. Entrepreneur is the one who is not a labor. So anybody other than the labor, other than the entrepreneur, is known to be as labor. And the nature of factor is the human factor. And the capital, it is owner of capital is the owner of the money lender. Under the conventional setup, normally they take money as the capital. So this is a point of conflict between the conventional economic concept of factors of production and the Islamic concept of factors of production. And the reward for capital in the conventional setup is interest, and then this is a man-made factor. So in money is created by man, so this factor is man-made, and actually it will include all other physical assets as well, like plant, machinery, furniture, anything. And then the enterprise. The owner of the factor is the entrepreneur. Whatever business entity which is developed or created by the entrepreneur is known as enterprise. So entrepreneur being the owner of that enterprise, they earn the profits and they have to face the losses as well. All the risks are for the entrepreneur in the conventional setup. So this is again a man-made factor. Enterprise is a man-made factor. So the factors of production, and in the Islamic framework, as I told earlier, we divide the factors of production into two inputs, like the factor inputs and consumed inputs. So factor inputs are those inputs that don't get consumed in the production process, which can be reused again. Their beneficial use is possible. For example, a truck which is being used for transportation of the raw materials, that truck is not consumed, rather the raw material into it which is being transported, that can be consumed. So all those inputs which are consumed in the production process, they are known as consumed inputs, and it would include like fuel, raw materials like cotton, plastic, and things like that. And the point of difference, the huge conflict is that treatment of money, the treatment of these currency notes, which we call them as fiat money as well. So the money is taken as a commodity under the conventional setup, whereas money is not taken as a commodity under the Islamic financial system. So money is consumed or recognized as a consumed input, because when you want to initiate any production process, you can't convert the money, these paper notes itself, into any finished product. So you have to consume that input, those currency notes, and you have to purchase some other input. That input might be a factor input and it may be a consumed input. For example, if you purchase a machinery, if you purchase a computer, that is a factor input. Whereas if you purchase some raw materials using that money, then those are the consumed inputs. So after the classification of the factors of production into factor inputs and consumed inputs, now let's discuss the reward of these factors. So there are hired factors of production, and then there are entrepreneurial factors of production. So the distinction between the factors of production to become a hired factor of production or entrepreneurial factor of production is that all the factor inputs, they can become a hired factor of production and they have the potential to become an entrepreneurial factor of production. Whereas the consumed inputs, they can't become a hired factor of production or an entrepreneurial factor of production. So these are just simply the raw materials and are consumed into the production process. So the hired factors of production, their reward is the rent, the wage, or their salary. So the laborers, they earn wage, land earns rent, machinery earns rent. So in case of entrepreneurial factors of production, which we know, which we have denoted as EFP as well, so the reward is the profit. So the entrepreneurial factors of production, they face risk, and the reward for risk is profit. So they either earn rewards or they suffer losses. So these factors will be categorized as entrepreneurial factors of production. As mentioned earlier, the factors, the factor inputs, those which opt to become a hired factor of production, they will have their reward in the form of ujrat, the wages or the salaries. So whereas if the factor inputs, they become an entrepreneurial factor of production, they face risk in the market and they earn reward in the case of profits, or they have to suffer losses. Now let's look in detail what is capital actually. we call anything which is man-made and all those resources which can be used in the production process, and we derived them from other sources and we converted them into the process such that they can be used to further produce something. We call them as capital as well. So these are man-made resources used for further production, and the examples are machines, raw materials, tools, and the features are the man-made, they are man-made, and it increases the productivity of other factors. So if we produce something using the labor with hand, for example stitching the footballs or the cricket balls with hands, it is quite slow process. But if we can stitch those balls with machine, it is quite quick. And to prepare the machine to do the same purpose and to offer the same services as the labor can do, but at a great speed, we use machines. So machines facilitate us for the further production or for a rapid production of the goods. So these are the man-made capital, and the objective is that increases the productivity of the other factors as well. And now how to distinguish between land and capital, because most of the things we derive from the land and then we convert them into capital. For example, ice at Mount Everest, would it be land or capital? So because we have not processed it at all, this is part of the land, so we will deal it as land. So that is factor of production which is linked with land, so it is denoted as land. And then if we process the ice and we might prepare it with our own sources, or we might transport it from the mountains where there is snow falling, so and we bring it to the skiing field, so it means we exerted some effort into it, some labor have done some effort into it, some machinery has been involved into it, so then that factor is converted into capital. So the ice at the Mount Everest is the land, whereas ice in the skiing field is capital. And then seawater is land because it is associated with land, so we treat it as a factor of production which is the part of land. And then if we put some effort into it, we involve some labor into it, so then we transport that seawater into a seafood restaurant, where the seafood restaurant will keep their things like the fish or some crabs or other items into that seawater to keep them fresh and alive. So that seawater being processed, so that then it will become capital. And then sharks in the ocean. So if you see the sharks in the ocean, we might treat them as a raw material for our food or for other purposes in the restaurants. So those sharks in the ocean, they are part of the land and they will be treated as factor of production as land. So when we transport those sharks into the ocean park or into an aquarium where you can watch them, people go and visit that park and they have to pay something for it. So it means the things have been processed, labor has been exerted, and we have converted that land into capital. So these are the little distinctions between the land and capital. And further refreshing our concept about the entrepreneurial factor of production, it is actually the combination of human and non-human resources. As we mentioned earlier, that human, they can become laborer, they can become entrepreneur as well. And then the other factors of production like the capital, land, and any raw material or anything which is not going to be consumed in the production process, they have the capability to become an entrepreneurial factor of production. And when they have to confront the choice of becoming an entrepreneurial factor of production or a hired factor of production, and if they opt to face the risk, then it means those factors of production, they are the entrepreneurial factors of production. And sometimes the factors of production or the factor inputs, they have no choice but to become an entrepreneurial factors of production. For example, a person having money cannot earn interest on it, like under the Islamic economic system. If you have some money with you, if you have a saving with you, you cannot earn interest on it. You have the only option to invest it somewhere. So that factor of production, that consumed input, will convert into some physical asset, and then it will be used as an entrepreneurial factor of production, and it might be used as a hired factor of production as well. And then sometimes the wage rate or rent rates are so low that the person prefer not to sell the labor or rent out the property. So, and sometimes the wage rate or the rent for property is so low that you don't rent it out or you don't go for the labor job. So what you do is you might do some business with your own assets. Like if you have a big building and you think the rent being offered in the economy is not good, so you might start a business by yourself. And you yourself, instead of becoming a labor, you might start, for example, a school into that building. So it means that building and you becoming an entrepreneur, you both face a risk of earning something or losing something. So in this case, you become an entrepreneurial factor of production. And then the entrepreneurial factors of production, being facing risk in the economy, they have to decide as well. So the decision making is the capability of the human resources only. Other factors, they can't make any decisions. Rather, they depend on the human decisions. So entrepreneur is the one who is going to decide, who is going to visualize certain things and is going to decide whether to invest into particular venture or not. And if the entrepreneur has some innovative skills and can find an opportunity, can identify an opportunity into the economy, and then it can involve some other factors as an entrepreneurial factor with his capabilities. So all those factors which face risk along with entrepreneur, they become an entrepreneurial factor of production. Whereas the services hired by the entrepreneur, because entrepreneur is one person and he is not an all-rounder, he can't decide about the different things like the other activities, like managerial activities, the clerical stuff, and the securities activities. So all those activities can be hired from in the market. So the same people, the one is entrepreneur and the others, they can become the clerks, the organizers, the managers, and the things like that. But the reward for each is different. Entrepreneur is earning profit, whereas others, they are earning reward for their services as an ujrat. So they are the hired factors of production. So in case of hired factors of production, the rule is same. All those factors who don't become an entrepreneurial factor, they become a hired factor of production. And those resources which offer their productive services are beneficial use, and their reward is known according to their use. For example, the reward to use a harvest machine is different, and the reward for a computer as the rented machine is different. So the reward is fixed and known in advance. And then all factors can become hired factor of production. None of the consumed input can become hired factor of production. For example, organizations and managers as factors of production too are treated as hired factors of production as long as they are not willing to bear the entrepreneurial risk. Because in the market, hired factors of production and entrepreneurial factors of production, they struggle with each other. And if the entrepreneurial factors of production, they have more attraction into them, so then the hired factors of production will be lesser, or there will be a greater entrepreneurial activity into the market, and the rate of the hired factors of production or the ujrat or the rent will be determined by the economic activity. So if the economic activity is more in the economy, it means the rewards for the hired factors of production will be more. And on the other hand, if the entrepreneurial activity is shrinking in the economy, it means more and more factors will be available for as a hired factor of production, so the demand will be lesser. And if the supply is more, then it means the reward will be lesser. So as mentioned earlier, all the factors, it may be the land, labor, physical capital, goods, and human capital, and the monetary sources, they are excluded because they are the consumed inputs. So they can become a hired factor of production, and they are derived from the same sources which can offer themselves as an entrepreneurial sources as well. and the supply and demand of hired factors of production competes with the supply of entrepreneurial factors of production. And this is what we are going to discuss in the later part of this lecture, that how a balance is achieved. What is the equilibrium level between the hired factors of production and the entrepreneurial factors of production. And so, again, a distinction is that all those factors which opt to become an entrepreneurial factor, so they face risk, and others, they earn reward or ujrat or rent for their services. And also we discussed the institutional framework in Islamic economic system. For example, there is a proper framework for the commodity markets in the Islamic economic system, because Islam rates very high the trading activities, because Allah says that instead of getting interest on your loans, better to involve into some business activities and some trading activities. So there are certain rules in the economy, in the market, like monopoly. The activities like monopoly, they are discouraged, and Prophet ﷺ has said that whoever monopolizes is a sinner. So monopoly is discouraged, and every activity which is against the norms of the society or against the benefits of the society, against the goods of the society, so that is prohibited. And also there are certain features that if you want to sell something, you must own that property. There are certain exemptions in the case of salam and istisna. We will discuss them in our coming lectures, that even before the manufacturing or the production of a good, we can sell it in advance in the case of agricultural goods and in the case of manufacturing goods like furniture and things like that. So without those exceptions, otherwise the seller must possess the commodity, and all the features of that commodity must be known to each other, and the transactions must be transparent, the prices must be agreed, and there should be no hidden intentions into a deal. And then the factor markets for hired factors of production, and we will discuss them in more detail in the next slides. And also the institution of participation. Because Islam discourages or prohibits interest, it means all the capital that is available in the market should be invested somewhere. So the participation modes of financing like musharaka and mudarba, they are very much appreciated in the Islamic economic system. And then the institution of social insurance. So Islam has different techniques and tools to ensure that people in the society, they are not deprived of their basic necessities like food, shelter and security. So if the people, they are deprived of wealth, still the system, Islamic economic system, would make sure that they get access to food, shelter and security, and there are certain mechanisms. For example, there is a compulsory tax on the wealth of everyone in the name of zakat. We have to pay a zakat in a certain proportion of our wealth of every year. And then there is a mechanism of ushr. Out of our agricultural products, we have to pay a certain proportion as ushr. And then charity and other social activities, they have been encouraged, and it is also encouraged from Quran and Hadith that what you love the most, donate in the path of Allah. So the things which are very much dear to us, the necessities of life, we should share it among each other. And also Allah has said that in the wealth of the people, there is a right of the people who are needy and they don't have wealth, they are deprived of that. So the right of the needy and the people who are poor is in the wealth of the people who are rich. And now we discuss the factor markets for hired factors of production. We discussed briefly the institutional framework of Islamic economic system, but the factor market for hired factor of production, we will discuss it in a greater detail such that we can understand the concept of equilibrium in the factors of production, which will come later on. So only those factors or resources can be rented or hired which are not consumed, as we discussed earlier. And renting or hire is the sale or purchase of the benefits or services. So each asset has its beneficial use or services. So against those services, it will be used, and the price of those services is the rent for that asset. And all those assets which produce their services, or the use of them is not in the form of services, but they produce something in real, like the trees which are giving fruits. So the renting these trees is not allowed in Islamic economic system. And also the financial resources, which are like the monetary resources which are used in the production process, even before the production process, they are consumed to become a factor input or a consumed input. So the renting of those inputs or those resources is not allowed under the Islamic economic system. And then there is a conflict about the concepts like renting of land for agricultural purposes. So there are few scholars who think the land cannot be rented out, but majority of scholars, they think land can be rented out. And the terminology we have in our economy, like जिसको ज़मीन को ठेके पे देना जिसको कहते हैं. So the renting of land is allowed according to the majority of scholars, because just like machinery, we have to put certain inputs into it, and then the land provides a service to convert those inputs into some products. For example, we have to plow the land, then we have to put seeds into it, we have to use fertilizers, we have to water the fields, and then the reward is, it provides the service to grow the crop, and ultimately into a finished product or a commodity like wheat, rice, or any agriculture output. And there are some moral values also. For example, the rented goods are the services which are used as a rent. So those should be used only for those activities which are allowed under Islamic economic system. Like the benefits of those services should be known, and it should not be against the divine guidance of under the Islamic economic system. For example, if the machinery is rented out to construct a casino or a gambling place or any other place where some narcotics will be prepared or some prostitution business will be taken place, so the renting of machinery to construct such things is not allowed. So even in the Islamic countries, it is totally not allowed, but if you are operating in some non-Muslim country where these things are allowed, so your assets should not be used and they should not provide any service to construct anything which is against the Islamic economic system or the values of Islam. And those goods which are prohibited to rent or generate prohibited services cannot be rented. Any loss or damage to the property not willfully caused by the tenant is to be borne by the owner. So this is one of the main principles and will be discussed in detail in the Ijara contract, that the owner, when they rent out their properties, and those properties will be used and it will provide some services. And then against those services, the price is the rent of those properties. So those physical goods, those capital assets which have been rented out, and there is not any willful mistake on the part of the tenant, so then any damage or loss caused to that particular asset has to be borne by the owner of that particular asset. And then there are some key elements about the ujrat. For example, ujrat should be determined. Ujrat will be determined by the supply and demand of forces, like how much is the supply of the hired factors of production and what is demand in the market for those hired factors of production. If the demand is higher, it means there is more entrepreneurial activity into the economy, and the demand for hired factors of production is higher, so the ujrat will be increased. But if the entrepreneurial factors of production are available for hired activities, it means the entrepreneurial activities are lesser in the market, so there are less economic activities, so most of the factors of production will be available for the hired activities, will be available for rent. So in that case, the demand will be lesser for them, and the reward or the ujrat again will be lesser. And the ujrat by definition is fixed and known in advance. Ujrat should be definite and known in advance. So ujrat or the rent or the salary must be known in advance. So whenever there is a contract between the two parties for rental of any property or the services, so the ujrat must be clear to both of the parties. And if the ujrat is not known, it means there is a risk for the asset which has been employed into any business activity, into any economic activity. So in that case, any factor, any resource which is facing a risk, then it means it is an entrepreneurial factor of production. So the ujrat must be known, otherwise it become an entrepreneurial factor of production. And ujrat cannot be in terms of same or similar benefits. It means that if you provide your machinery for some services and you cannot receive the reward into the use of same kind of machinery, rather it is allowed that you give your property for certain services, you rent it out and you receive the rent in the shape of like using of some building or in the use of some other type of machinery. So taking the same kind of services in reward is not allowed, and if it has to happen then it must be exactly same and equal, so which is not possible. So otherwise it will constitute riba. So the reward of use of a machinery or a service should be in some other mode. And the resources which are allowed to be rented or hired, they include the land for cultivation, for construction or for plantation, and then the animals for transportation and help in the cultivation. The human resources, they can perform the labor activities, like they can become loaders, unskilled workers, servants, and at the same time they can become the professionals like doctors, lawyers, professors, organizers, managers. So they can perform their services as hired factor of production. And the buildings such as houses, shops, factories, warehouses, stores, they can also be rented out. And all such other goods that are capable of rendering services without being consumed in a production process or in the process that provides services to the others, like machinery, tools, dresses, tents, jewelry, and things like that. These things, they are not consumed, but they provide certain services. And now the topic of the lecture, that is the equilibrium in the factors of in the factor markets. So the previous picture, it was portrayed just to make you aware that what we are going to do now. So there are, as you should be very much clear that there are factor inputs which have the capability to become a hired factor of production, or they can become an entrepreneurial factor of production. So they both operate in the same economy. So the demand for each other will determine that what will be the ujrat for the hired factors of production, and what are the implications of greater entrepreneurial activities, or the more factors if they are available for hired factors of production. So what will happen and how the balance will be determined. So both the factor inputs, they compete for both of the things. Hired factors of production, they compete with the entrepreneurial factors of production. So let's see how a balance is achieved. So first we see the supply and demand of hired factors of production, and then we will look into the supply and demand of entrepreneurial factors of production, and then we will look how the factor market equilibrium is achieved. So I think you all should be aware with the concept of equilibrium in the supply and demand. For example, the demand of the goods against a price level. If the price is greater, demand for the goods will be lower. And if the price decreases, the demand for goods, it increases. So this linear line will determine that what will be the shape of demand and demand. And against this demand, the supply of goods line will be like that. So at a lower price, the suppliers will supply lesser goods into the market, and as the price increases, the supply of goods and services increases into the market. So then how to achieve a balance? So balance will be determined where the both of the supply and demand curves, they intersect each other. So this is the equilibrium level. So in the same way, we have a demand curve for the hired factors of production, and we have a supply and demand for the entrepreneurial factors of production. So where both of them they intersect each other, we say this is an equilibrium between them. So let's have a look about the supply and demand of hired factors of production. So as we know that the factors of production, they compete each other to become a hired factor or an entrepreneurial factor. So how they determine it? Like the marginal utility, the marginal productivity will determine the demand for the human resources and physical capital. So the factor inputs like human resources or the physical capital, it will depend upon the marginal productivity. So if they can be productive by becoming entrepreneurial factor of production more than if they had chosen to become an entrepreneurial factor of production, so these factors would prefer to become an entrepreneurial factor. So the marginal productivity, that will determine that factor is going to be an entrepreneurial factor or it is going to be a hired factor. So the supply of labor will be determined by the marginal utility of layer to the laborer. So if the labor, they think that the reward for their labor is not enough, so then if they can afford, then they will stay idle and they will not do anything. And if they think the reward of labor is good, then they will opt to become a laborer and the supply of labor will be greater. And the supply of capital goods will be determined by the opportunity cost of producing capital goods. And on the same way, if there are some physical assets, the capital assets, for example, if a machinery is capable of producing plastic goods, then the concept of marginal productivity will consider whether it is better to produce the plastic goods by using this machine as an entrepreneurial factor, or it is better to rent it out. So the marginal productivity will determine that capital asset should be rented out or it should be used into some productive activity by taking some risk on it. And then the rental of capital goods will really be the rental, not the interest. So the rental of those capital goods, it should be the rental. It should not constitute any kind of interest. For example, as we mentioned earlier, that the reward of services of a machinery should not be in the same shape. I mean, it should not be the reward of the same kind of machinery. Rather, the reward should be in some different shape. Like it might be the monetary reward, it might be the use of any other asset, the constructive use of any other asset, or the beneficial services of any other asset. And then under the conventional economic system, supply of capital is derived from the supply of savings, which is determined by the marginal utility of future consumption vis-a-vis present consumption. So in the conventional setup, the factors of production like the monetary resources, they will determine to become an entrepreneurial factor or the hired factor based upon their use. For example, if the people who save, if the savers, they think that they have greater utility or they can earn more if they deposit that amount into some banks, or there will be no risk into it. So the utility will determine the present use of that money. So if it is better to spend that money to involve into some business activity, then the marginal utility will determine whether it should be a saving or it should be invested, and the reward will be determined accordingly. And the reward will determine that what should be the supply of capital. If it is to the interest of the depositor that they should earn some more interest by putting them into the deposits, so then that capital is available for the economic activities. Otherwise, they might use it with some other preferences. So instead of discussing the supply and demand of entrepreneurial factors of production, let's have a look into this chart, this picture, into this figure that denotes the supply and demand of hired factors of production and supply and demand of entrepreneurial factors of production. So this curve, this line shows this SS line. It is the supply of human resources or capital resources. And this is the demand of hired labor or hired resources. It may be capital goods, it may be human resources, and this is the total supply and demand for the human resources or any resources. And this demand curve intersects this SS line, which is the supply of the human resources or the capital resources at this point, which is SU. And U is the level of wage. This is along this line, this is wage. So for higher wages, demand is lesser. For example, at this point, when the wages are high, demand is only this much. And when the wage is reduced, the demand increases for the hired labor, for the physical goods, for anything that is available as a hired factor of production. So this point is where the labor supply is earning a reward U. Okay, and after that, this is the point S0 where the labor is indifferent. Sometimes if they have to do work, they will opt to become a hired factor, and then they will be supplied as labor because the available ujrat for their services is getting lower and lower. So instead of offering their services as labor, they will either sit idle or they will opt to become the entrepreneurial factor of production. So these factors from SU to S0, they might become a laborer or they will sit idle. But after S0, when the marginal productivity is increased, for example, if they have to become a laborer, their reward is only this much. This is the wage. So what they do, whereas they think they can earn a lot instead of becoming a hired laborer, so they can earn from here to here. So they prefer to become an entrepreneurial factor of production. So this is the supply of entrepreneurial factors of production. So they have to compete with the demand of the hired factors of production. So from SU to SR, these are the laborers which have the option to become an entrepreneurial factor of production, or they will sit idle and sometimes they might perform some labor work. So here in this chart, SR is the total resources capable of becoming entrepreneurial factors of production or hired factors of production. It's not that only human resources, any factor of production, any factor input that has the potential to become a hired factor of production or an entrepreneurial factor of production. And SU is the resources employed on Ujrat. So as I mentioned earlier, that SU, these are the resources which agree to this rent, this wage, and they have become a hired factor of production. Whereas SR minus SU, that is SR minus SU, so this part, these are the entrepreneurial supply of resources. So this is the entrepreneurial supply of the resources which will have the option to become an entrepreneurial factor of production. And before that, until SU, all the resources, they will prefer to become a hired factor of production. And SS, that is from here to this point, we have denoted it as the supply curve of hired resources, and S0 is the resources available at constant opportunity cost, and DD is the demand curve of the resources. So there are two things which need some explanation. For example, how the SR is determined and how the remainder becomes an entrepreneurial factor of production. So SR, as it is clear that these are the resources, supply of resources, maybe if we discuss the human resources, they can become a laborer and they can become an entrepreneur. And the labor supply is measured in the total man hours available into the economy. And the labor supply is equal to the number of workers into number of working hours per worker. And this way we will determine the total number of hours the labor is available. And the factors affecting labor supply is the size of population, size of the working population, and the number of working hours. Size of working population means that in the economy or in the population, there, according to the age groups, the labor will be available. For example, if there is increase in the population growth, population is growing at a rapid pace, there will be more labor available into the economy. And it also, the population will grow by the natural growth, by the population growth rate, and also through the immigration. For example, in most of the Arab countries, the immigrant laborers, they are performing labor activities. And the monetary reward, if the monetary rewards are more, it means the higher factors of production, they can earn more reward as ujrat or rent or a salary. So then the supply will increase. And then if the import of labor from other countries, the labor will increase if the laborers, they are imported from other countries. And also the labor will be available for labor if the retirement age is shifted from 60 to 70. So this way also the labor and the number of hours the labor perform will increase. And if we increase the school leaving age from 16 to 17, it means the labor will not be available that much as if they were available if the school leaving age was 16. And then how the remainder of SR minus SU, they become an entrepreneurial factor of production. So a supply until SU, the supply of labor or the human resources or any other physical assets or resources, until SU, they are agreed, they are willing to provide their beneficial services at an ujrat of U, at an ujrat rate which is U, but anything less than that, they don't agree to become a hired factor of production. So that portion of SR minus SU, that they are available for entrepreneurial factors of production. So, and from among these people, some people, they might sit idle, they don't perform any labor work, but some people, they will become an entrepreneur. And the people who sit idle, they prefer labor as their marginal utility against the labor they perform. They think that the reward of their labor is not enough. So anything below this line, that is U, that is this is the wage rate, the constant wage rate. Until here, the supply of the resources, they think their reward is justified. But after that, the supply of resources will not be there because the demand is at a lower wage rate. So the lower wage rate, the supply is not there. So either they become entrepreneur by themselves or they will sit idle. So out of these resources, people will become, or the resources will opt to become an entrepreneurial factor or a hired factor of production. And then the SR for human resources, it is the size of population and growth rate of the population. Human resources, if cannot get ujrat to their desired level, may sit idle or become an entrepreneurial factor of production, as we discussed in previous slides. And S for capital goods is in the country will be the total output of capital goods in the country minus exports plus imports. So the capital goods in a country will be the total output of the capital goods in the country minus the goods which have been exported plus the goods which have been imported. So that will be the supply of capital goods into the economy. We discussed the supply of labor, and this is the supply of capital goods into the economy. And the stock of capital goods more than the demand in the economy will become entrepreneurial factor of production, otherwise will be depleted by the annual payment of zakat. So you can see here the stock of these capital goods, a portion of it will become a hired factor of production, and then the remainder would become an entrepreneurial factor of production, otherwise it will be depleted by payment of zakat. So all the capital goods, they have to pay zakat on them. So the zakat is an obligatory tax, and it will deplete the assets every year. So this is a motive also that the idle capital goods should not remain idle. They should be earning at least the 2.5%, the obligatory tax. And the factors that determine the demand for the entrepreneurial factors of production, they can be listed as like, first of all, the capability to utilize a productive activity that would yield the entrepreneur an expected profit greater than the prevailing level of ujrat for his services or for the resources. So if the human resources, they can visualize that if they engage themselves as an entrepreneurial factor of production into any business activity, they can earn more than if they can become an entrepreneurial hired factor of production. Then it will be one of the determinant to become an entrepreneurial factor of production. And the risk involved in initiating the project. If the risk is very high, the factors will avoid to become an entrepreneurial factor. And if the risks they are minimum or they are lesser, or if the risks they can be managed because of the participation of different resources into the economy, so then the resources or the factors they will opt to become an entrepreneurial factor of production. And also the supply of other productive resources. If only few resources have to face the risk, then they might avoid to become an entrepreneurial factor. But if there are more factors, more resources are available, the supply for the productive resources is greater, then they all can share the risk. And if the people they can share their risks, then there is a greater opportunity that the factors of production they become an entrepreneurial factor of production. And the institutional arrangement conducive for free entry into the market. There are certain arrangements into the market, for example, the fair competition policy and easy access to the other factors of production and easy access to the markets and the free market economy. The things like that, these are the environments which are conducive for the entrepreneurial activities. So the factors or the resources in the economy, they will prefer to become an entrepreneurial factor of production in this case. And the supply of entrepreneurial factors of production will also ignite the supply of other entrepreneurial factors of production. For example, if there are more entrepreneurs into the economy, then they will take their resources also, they will put their resources also into risk, into some business activity, and then the demand for entrepreneurial factors of production will be greater into the economy. So the increase in the demand of one entrepreneurial factor would mean that it increase for the other factors of production as well. And then how to achieve the equilibrium into the factor market. For example, the chart we discussed earlier. So in this figure, we see if the demand curve shifts from to the right or to the left, so the new equilibrium will be achieved. For example, if the demand curve increases for the supply of resources, it means that there are more entrepreneurial activities into the economy. What would it mean? That wages would increase. The factors would compete each other, and the price for the services and the rent for the capital goods will increase into the economy. So it means there will be more supply of the resources into the economy, and a new level will be achieved. For example, if the wage increases to this level with an increase of demand from this point to this point, so then if the wages increases at this level, it means a new level of equilibrium will be achieved. So then this will be the new level. So it means more resources will be available for hired factor of production. Instead of SU, now the new level of supplies will shift to the right and it will increase. And on the other hand, if the demand for hired factors of production reduces, it means there are lesser entrepreneurial activities. And on the other hand, if the ujrat or the wages or supplies they decrease and the demand curve shifts to the left, it means if the ujrat reduces to this level from here to here, then what will happen to the equilibrium? It means a new equilibrium will be achieved at this point. And this means that hired factors of production are not available up to this level. Now they are available only up to this level. So there is a decrease in the supply of resources from SU to this new point. So the equilibrium will be shifted from one point to the other depending upon the demand for the resources into the economy. And the demand for resources or the inputs will be determined by the competition of entrepreneurial factors of production and hired factors of production. If the entrepreneurial activity in the economy is greater, it means more and more labor or the resources will be demanded from the economy for the hired factors of production. So it means an increase in the ujrat. But if the hired factors of production are more available and the lesser factors are available for the entrepreneurial factors, maybe because of certain risks available into the economy. So in that case, the greater supply of resources would mean that the wage rate would reduce. And if it reaches to a certain level, then again it will ignite the process of entrepreneurial factors. So this is the concept of equilibrium between the factors of production. And in today's lecture, most part was covered in our previous lecture as well. And we discussed the supply and demand for the hired factors of production and also supply and demand for the entrepreneurial factors of production, and how the equilibrium is achieved between the supply and demand of the hired factors of production and the entrepreneurial factors of production. This is an ongoing process, and it depends upon different factors into the economy. And sometimes the demand for HFP or hired factors of production will be greater, and sometimes the demand for entrepreneurial factors of production will be greater, and accordingly equilibrium will be achieved between them. And the equilibrium would mean the ujrat will be determined, and then what is the level of ujrat and what factors they will not accept that level of ujrat, and they will become an entrepreneurial factor of production. So this was the concept of factors of production in Islam, and how a balance is achieved into the supplies of these different factors. And this is all for today's lecture. Until next lecture, Assalamu alaikum.